أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Chapter 82, Al-Infritar, the disintegration, 19 verses. And go ahead, Mondo, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When the vacuum disintegrates, and when the planets are crushed, and when the oceans explode, and when the graves are opened, every soul will know what caused her to advance and regress. O you human being, what made you divert from your Lord, possessor of honor, the one who created you, perfected you, and set you right? In whatever image he willed, he constructed you. Absolutely, you reject the faith. However, there are indeed guards around you. They are honest recorders. They know everything you do. Indeed, the righteous will be in bliss, and indeed the evildoers will be in the inferno. They will enter therein on the day of faith, and they will never be absent therein. And do you realize what the day of faith is? Again, do you realize what the day of faith is? The day when no soul shall have any power to do anything for another soul, and all decisions on that day belong to God.
Okay, mashallah. Thank you. Very good. Any questions, any comments, any observations? Very short verses and all to the point. Some are just like 2 or 3 words. Okay. Anything?
From this Parvez.
Alaikum salam, Parvez. Yes, go ahead, please.
When I look at those verses, I mean, it's a bit, I don't know how to answer. I mean, God is asking, oh, you human, what made you divert from your Lord, possessor of honor? The one who created you, perfect you, and set you right in whatever image he will construct you. I mean, it makes you feel more guilty than ever. I mean, we know who he is, and,
exactly.
and we betrayed him, right? And, I mean, the one who possesses all honor, right? And he created us, and whatever image he made us, I mean, he's the source of our existence, and then he's asking us what happened to him. I always ask myself this question, I still can't figure it out. My only answer is that, okay, I am evil, I have to admit that I'm evil. Then I ask God to correct my ways so that I can be in his path once again. That's all I know. I don't know. Any other suggestions you have? I mean, how to answer this?
Well, I mean, as I said, when I do the Al-Fatiha, I'm just thinking of myself when I reach to those verses that God says that صراط الذين غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay, so when I think of people who are astray or people who have been incurred wrath, I'm thinking of myself, how I was. Okay, I mean, and we still have flaws and has to be fixed, but it's something that you become really your own judge, and you see how much wrong we have done in the past, and the idea of repentance is just not to repeat them themselves, to make sure that we learn that lesson and we become a better servant of God. Yep.
Yeah, it makes me think that the God is always showing us how bad we have become, and unless we go and seek his path and constantly call on him alone.
Exactly. There's no other way. I mean,
the way.
we read it last week. Remember, where are you going?
Yeah, exactly.
There is no place to go.
And the Egyptian had the wisdom to say, "Oh, I delegate my affairs to God."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's called pure submission. I mean, you have to come to the conclusion you can't do it right without Him.
Yep.
So, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments or observations or? Anything? As you see now in 82:8, I changed the translation there, or the understanding. في أي صورة ما شاء ركبك. Okay. In whatever image He willed, He constructed you. Okay, so these are one of those words that have been taken out of context when it went into Farsi. Surat in Farsi means face. That's not in Arabic though. Arabic means image. So these things become something of a misunderstanding when lost in translation, so to speak. Okay, because you expect something that you understand and it's not the correct understanding. Okay, and that has happened in the case of night. Okay, they think that night you're supposed to be actually dark. It's not. Night is actually when. So, but anyway, so a lot of these things that happen when you go from one language to another language, and words are being juxtaposed, so to speak, okay, and they're taking the wrong meaning, and so we have to be very careful with that. Okay, any questions? Any discussions?
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fazely.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, go ahead, please.
Sir, please could you repeat what you... Sir, can you... Please would you...
if
you would mind just repeat
I don't know how it is in Urdu. I'm not sure what surat means in Urdu, but in Farsi it means face.
It also means face in Urdu, to my knowledge.
See, but that's the wrong understanding. You see, the word face in Arabic is wajh. Okay? Faghsilu wujuhakum. Wash your faces. Okay? So, as I said, these are the stuff that has been, moved from one language to another language, and it lost its meaning in the transition. So this means image, and you have this in the understanding of the Old Testament, that God created man in His own image. You see, so could we understand that God created man in an image, not His own image? Okay, so this is probably what the original verse was. See.
And you also brought the example of Layl. I believe that it's not actually night; it's dark. Is that correct?
Yeah. As soon as sun sets, called Layl. Okay. And that's why if you go to these Shia countries, especially Iran, people wait until they break their fast. They don't do it at sunset. They'll wait another 10 minutes or so, and then they do their fasting. They break their fast, which is wrong actually. Okay. Sunset means light. And that's the understanding of Arabic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, any observations, any more things that we want to discuss in this? I want to just tell you a little bit ago. We discussed this a little bit in the Juma prayers today. Okay, that when the vacuum disintegrates, this is the time that God and His angels, they come. God says it's like through the clouds. Okay, that's what it looks like. That's when this flimsy structure, which is called vacuum, is disintegrates. Okay, and that's due to the fact that God, actually physical existence of God, which is manifested to this structure, is going to disintegrate it. And so we learned a little bit about this measurements that have been done with the Webb telescope, and they're all confirming the old measurements. And basically, there was nothing wrong with the old measurements, but it showed that that the Hubble constant is not really a constant. It varies. So the expansion is not uniform. It has its own laws and stuff that we do not understand. So then God says when the planets are crushed. Okay, so this is, you say, well, planets are so puny, who cares? That's not true. There are a lot of planets. Okay, so if you take, for example, our galaxy between 200 and 400 billion stars. So, and we don't know because there's also another wing of the galaxy which is actually obscured from us because we're living on the disks, so we can't see it very well. So this arm of the galaxy, which sort of hugs on the outside, could be really huge, and so it could take it to it could take it basically to the same size as Andromeda, and so we don't know. It may be 1 trillion stars. Who knows? But then you can just extrapolate from that. We have about 10 planets, and so and there are a lot of so-called dwarf planets that we don't even count around the sun. But let's just say 10 planets on average. So that becomes 4 trillion stars. 40 trillion stars. No, 10 trillion stars. 10 trillion stars. Or 4 trillion stars, depending on 400 million or billion or 1 trillion. So the same thing with the other galaxies. Okay, so you can just multiply that by 10, by a factor of 10, and that gives you the number of planets. And some of the planets are big; they're not small, like Jupiter and Saturn, and there are even bigger planets than that. And so they carry a lot of mass. So anyway, so that's what God says. They are going to be completely crushed. There are not going to be any planets. And when the oceans explode, so what happens? Okay, so this explosion of the thing, is it because of the fusion reaction or whatever it is? Who knows what's going to happen on that day? Okay, and then finally the graves are open. These guys are coming, like God says, scatter locusts out of the graves. And these are scary things that God is telling us. And so if you go up here, it's basically this is the middle of the Quran, okay? But the interesting thing is that this sort of images the early revelations, okay? And the same kind of warnings, the same kind of lessons that he's teaching us about that day, how horrible that day is, how horrendous that day is going to be. And here again, okay. Another one that I wanted to mention is 82:7. Okay, the one who created you, perfected you, and set you right. Okay, 2 words here, and fasawwaka fa'adalak. Okay, both of them, they basically are telling us there's a balance. Okay, so as I said, when you go to the doctor gives you all kinds of tests. you know, you go for your yearly checkup or something like that, and they give you a blood test and all kinds of, and all of those chemicals in there inside your body, they're all balanced. There's a balance there, and if that balance somehow is disturbed, then your whole system is going to be out of whack, so to speak. It's not going to function properly, and so it has to really click on all cylinders, so to speak. And so this is what God is telling us, that He's the one who created you. Okay, again, He said created you. Now we are in time, so that's what He did. Okay. So this is a time type of statement. All of them are. Fasawwaka, made you balanced. Okay. Ba'addalak, again, adl means justice, means equality, things like that. So it basically refers to equations. And that's what we're governed with. Everything in this world is governed by equations. But not outside, not before, or not after. A completely different universe. Anything else? Any other comments or observations? I have talked a lot. Anybody has anything? Go ahead, Farid. Go ahead.
Is sequence, when you talk about sequence, is that a part of time also when something happened? The sequence of it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, the reason I ask because while we may not know what the time of things on this planet or whatever is going to happen, the sequence I thought was important when we have our discussions to say something happened before something else happened. If we don't talk about sequence, then if it didn't happen yet, and I might be completely wrong, maybe, then it's not truth. It didn't happen. If it didn't happen yet, or if we talk about it before the sequence of it,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with talking about it, but the point is that
I'll think about asking it again. It's important to me to know that. Last couple of weeks ago, we talked about when we all came before God, and we said we all saw God. We believe God is God alone. But it was before, like you said, we came here. So I was looking at sequence, not so much in time, but the fact that there was a sequence to things, that if we didn't, everything would just be mushed together and there would be no activity, or the activity would be muddled if we didn't deal with sequence. So I took it outside of time.
Yeah, can I show you something? Okay, so this is what I did in 7172. You can read it now. Okay, this is, and when your Lord gathered all children of Adam.
I cannot hear you at all.
I'm sorry. Okay, can I read that now? And when your Lord gathered all children of Adam, comprising all generations, to bear witness for themselves, am I not your Lord? They said, yes, indeed. We bear witness, lest you may say on the day of resurrection, we were unaware of this. Okay? So this is a place that all generations of children of Adam are gathered. And it is completely impossible to think of it in terms of time. See? So this is called simultaneity. which means you simultaneously gather everybody. And so, the concept of time is,
I'm sorry. Okay, let me fix that. I can't believe it.
let me mute and unmute everybody, okay? Just 1 second. 1 second. Okay, should be okay now.
Dr. Fazely, I'm sorry I did not hear what you said.
It's all right. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Dr. Fazely.
Walaikum salam, Shakira. Yes, go ahead, please.
I was just thinking when you were talking is that, God says in that verse, when you go back to the Surah 82, it tells you, however, there are indeed guards around you and they are honest recorders. And we also know that God himself is actually with us at all times. The thing is that we live in one dimension, but there are many other dimensions that are actually watching us and are right around us, like the angels and the jinns.
Yes.
If all of and then basically, and the collective conscience itself, which is in our dimension, is watching us all the time. And we think that, so basically we are so surrounded that if all those dimensions came into one dimension, and if all the the listening and everything, all those things came on the same line, we would be practically packed together, and we cannot speak anything but the truth because everybody's watching us.
Yeah. Well, that's
go ahead.
That is the embarrassing part. That's what humiliation is. Because, see, all of the sins are going to be shown to people. That's the problem. And that's what God says, okay, in chapter 55, okay? It says that the guilty will be recognized by the looks. Okay? This is a horrible situation. Absolutely horrible. See, that guilty will not be asked about their sins. They will be recognized by their looks. So, this is a tremendous humiliation on the part of these people. They're going to be completely embarrassed. And that's what God says, do not, that one of the prayers is supposed to be that do not, humiliate us on the day of judgment. And that's exactly what it is. But now, if somebody actually kills his or her ego and asks for forgiveness and repents to God, then the whole thing is wiped out clean. Can you imagine that? It's all gone, all of it. So,
it's really it's a huge test if we only remember that we are surrounded everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no place to hide. That's what I was trying to say, okay? There's no place to hide. People think that there's a place to hide. Everything you see around you, these are recording devices. Remember on Day of Judgment, your skin is going to speak? I mean, that's what God says. You thought that you're safe. You can't hide from your own skin. Okay? What made you talk? Well, God made us talk. Okay? your hands, your feet. It's amazing. These are all recording devices.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Fazely.
Thank you. Anything else?
Salam, Dr. Fazely.
Welcome, Salam Nishat. Yes.
Last week, when you were talking about Adl or the equation, and you said that Adl was not one of the names of God, that was such a eye-opening for me, because I always thought that Adl was one of God's, or just was one of God's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Husna. And it was the same thing as like a while ago when you talked about Sabir, and that's not God's name. And we always say that God is Adil, God is, has a lot of patience and stuff like that. So
those are all wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was just thinking about, like, how does God introduce himself as the judge? And I think one of the words that came was Ahkam al-Hakimi, which means the best of the judges.
Yeah. Yes. Hukm also means ruling. Okay? It's a ruling that he actually, assigns either, suffering to someone or assigns bliss to somebody. And that's what God does. He says he's the best one of them. So in our own thing, we just call it judge, but that's not, doesn't mean that it's based on these kind of things. It's different. Okay? You see, if God were wanted to punish us for all of our guilt, God says not a single creature would be alive. Okay? So
that's so true.
You can imagine how bad it is. And then all of a sudden he just wipes it clean. Okay? So the equation on that side is you did all of the bad things, okay? And it's all clean now. Nothing is there. Not only that, he says there are going to be credits there if you just repent to God. And that's amazing. So those things are wiped clean completely, and that's what the heads of those people who are on the day of judgment that are clean and they have no records because of certain things that they did in this universe, their heads is being held high, and the reason is because they have nothing to be ashamed of. On the other hand, the other guys, everything's going to be shown to everybody, and can you imagine that they pass by something, then all of a sudden the atoms in there, they vibrate and they say, remember what you did? Remember what the Hoopoe did with the Queen of Sheba? Okay? The Hoopoe knew they were idol worshippers. Okay? Remember that? Okay? So, can you imagine? Right? So, you see your cat, your dogs, you see your gerbil, and you see your bird and stuff like that, and people commit all kinds of sin in front of these people and things like that, but they know what's going on. Okay? We sit there like we're ignorant about these facts, and it's very embarrassing.
And even like the wall or the shirt you were talking about, the shirt and how many roles it played in different situations in Quran. When I thought about Adil before, it was all about like justice and making sure that the haq or the what do you call it, the truth is going to overcome the falsehood. But then last week when you were talking about that, I started thinking about as an equation. Then I was just like, there is no equation, because God says whoever does a bad thing, they get exactly the same retribution, but whoever does a good thing gets 10 times more, so there is no equation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just interesting how some things get stuck in our head and some words that we grew up without thinking. And then I always thought that Adil, Sabr were all names of God or attributes of God. And God forgive me, I was calling him with those names. And so it's an eye-opener. Alhamdulillah, every week we are learning something Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Assalamu, Dr. Fazely?
Walaikum assalam, Jerry. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just want to thank God for Juma today. A lot of great notes in Juma today that I've made some notes on the vehicles to God, which are another act of worship for God. How you told us how with the equations and that we have to none of your business. But anyway, the one thing I want to share this week with everyone, my throat is kind of going out, but is that I want to share what I struggle with. Is because every week we call in and we do Juma and my thing is my energy level is always on 1,000, and there's nobody else in the world I live in around me that has that kind of energy. So when we see these windows that God shares with us, and we have to, how do we? I have to learn how to control my enthusiasm and my. I just want to, after these Quran says, I just want to how do we lay down and not go run through a wall because it's so awesome, and we use the word mind-boggling, which is eye-opening, astonishing, and difficult to understand or imagine. And I know some people are introverts. I'm an extrovert. So, and there's nobody else in the world I live in around here that has any kind of energy. So everywhere when you get blow up and you get, oh man, just Quran, and the next person you run into is like they bring you down. So something I struggle with is just trying to maintain my energy and stay focused on worshiping God alone, knowing there's going to be no relationship on the DOJ and all those things. Just want to say alhamdulillah, thank God for my energy and how I feel about it and how I want to express myself. That's why I try to call in and share with God how grateful I am for everything that we got. But the excitement that I have in my chest and my joy sometimes it's overwhelming. And I don't have anyone to share with, so I want to thank you guys for this community.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, that's great. Well, you have God there, and once you are with God, you are the absolute majority. Don't worry about it.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any other comments, observation? Any questions? So anyway, as I said, this is a very short surah, and it's very concise and to the point, and tells us a lot of stuff about our existence here in this universe, and how we are surrounded by all of these things. God is talking about gods, and however there are indeed gods around you, and they are honest recorders. And then I wanted to just mention this. It says 82:12. Okay, you see the Arabic, the way it says is يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Okay, it says they know everything you do. Okay, تَفْعَلُونَ is everything, all the things that you do, either is intentional or not intentional. Okay, every action that you take, they know it. Can you imagine that? That is amazing. Okay, so basically, as I said, there is no place to hide. Okay, you do a good deed or a bad deed, and those are intentional because you make it. But there are things you do during the day that are completely unintentional. But that's part of your fi'al, which means this. يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. So they know everything you do. Okay, and that's amazing. Okay, so there is no place to hide, no excuses. Okay, but again, warnings from God that look, if you go ahead and continuously doing this, breaking His commandments, and do the things and says, then God says, He says that indeed the righteous will be in bliss. وَإِنَّ الْفُجَّارَ لَفِي جَحِيمٍ. Okay, indeed, the evildoers will be in the inferno. Okay, and they'll be thrown, they'll enter therein on the day of faith. Okay, and they're never absent. They do not get a day off. Let's put it that way. Okay, they are condemned to be confined in there. And it is absolutely amazing, absolutely scary. Okay, and then God is telling us, says that, do you know what the day of faith is? Again, he repeats, do you realize what the day of faith is? Okay. The day when no soul shall have any power to do anything for another soul. And all decisions on that day belong to God. So, when we read these things, it's just good news and warnings, and we have to really shape up as soon as possible and make sure that we are on our best behavior. Otherwise, we are going to be suffering a great deal.
Assalamu alaikum. I look at what you're reading. I see that this chapter ends with the number 19.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it says to me, I mean, that's how I'm looking at it, that's the end of free will also.
Yeah. What do you mean by free will? The free will will not be taken away from people. Okay? The free will is going to be there. There's not going to be. There is no system in God's system that takes free will away from people. You're still going to learn, but the thing is that difference between here and paradise is that in paradise, those people who have been righteous, those people have the wisdom to choose wisely. Okay, and on the other hand, the people in hell, they're going to make the wrong decision all the time, no matter what. They're going to reform because they made it here, they made the wrong decision here, they gravitate towards falsehood, and they're going to continue doing that. So there is no taking away free will from anybody.
It's interesting. I mean, what can we do? I mean, what is there to do but to worship God? Or those that have made it to the paradise, I thought we just simply worship.
Yeah, that's the joy of it, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's the joy of it, and you see, that's I'm emphasizing that we have to practice at it. That you have to enjoy doing your contact prayers. You have to enjoy giving to charity. You have to enjoy fasting. If any of these things are done by reluctance and things like that, it's not going to do any good. See? So that's the key. And then you take this kind of habit, so to speak. You take it with you and you take it to paradise, inshallah. And that would be a continuous praise to God for eternity. And as I said, eternity doesn't mean that there is no end to time. It's outside time. So the joy of paradise is so beautiful that we cannot even fathom it. So there is no boredom there. And it's always joy and learning new things and whatever that God chooses to teach you.
I like that. I actually think this is important to understand, and thank you for that. If I don't know anything else today, that that's something that's an eye opener. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, by the way, that's the only word Allah in this chapter. It's the 19th one. Okay.
Here you go.
Okay, anything else, any other comments or question, observations in this chapter?
Salam, Dr. Fazely.
Alaikum salam, Shakira. Yes?
I was thinking that the way we behave, as long as we worship God alone, the statements in the Quran are very clear. It tells you, Allahi tawakkal ala bizikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Basically, if you just commemorate the name of God and think about Him, basically you are going to be a person who is satisfied and happy. Just with that one sentence. That one sentence is so, and then He says you will be kings and queens, and I mean, it's just so simple to look at what can happen to us when we worship God alone, knowing that He has created us. We have the knowledge we have of Him is very minute, but it is extremely important, and our knowledge is so minimal that and with that little knowledge we are creating opinions and doing all kinds of rubbish that is so horrible, and you see it all around the world. But still, I see that we are doing okay, right? I mean, God does not put us in Ukraine, or not in Syria, or not in Gaza. None of those things are happening to us. Not millions and millions of people. It's really profoundly. I feel bad about this. All of them are suffering so much that they have no food to eat. They are dying. But there's a reason, right? So, and then you are like this. So I think maybe not even 1% of the world is as satisfied and okay as we are. And so I think the responsibilities is way, way higher than anybody else's. They are hardly capable of surviving. And here we are far better than that. We can think, we can do all kinds of, I don't know. It's mind-boggling to know that we know all this math. We know that we are seeing these windows. We know for a fact that it is mathematically composed that we are going to be satisfied and happy just by remembering Him. Nothing else. It's not the food. It's not anything at all. It's just Him.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, very good. Any other discussions or comments or observations that somebody has made or is going to make?
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fazely.
Alaikum salam, Anwar. Yes, go ahead, please.
After listening to everybody, I just inevitably come to the conclusion that the biggest gift in my life that I have is to worship God alone.
Yes,
and I'm
exactly.
so proud of it, and I'm so honored by that fact. And I just pray to God that He keeps us, He gives us, He strengthens our foothold and guide us to His right path, to the right path all the time. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we cannot be thankful enough. I tell you that. Okay, this is something that we have to be so grateful to God for. The privilege that we are receiving, and it's we cannot even fathom. I mean, sometimes I ask why me.
Yeah.
It just because we were all astray. We didn't know what was going on. We just we were trying to find our way, but as to my own situation, I was curious. Okay, and God knew it, that I was in search of. So, little by little, you ask questions, and God, according to His wisdom, according to the venue, to the time, He responds. And that has to be the best possible outcome. There is no other outcome. okay, that he arranges. And you know, you look at the history of Joseph, okay, like you were talking about the Surah Abasa, okay, we read it a couple of weeks ago. And in that chapter, we were talking about the Muhammad as a character, as a human character. What kind of person was he? Okay. Same thing, you know, when you read chapter Joseph, you see what kind of person this kid was. It was amazing. Okay. And you know, his brothers actually they tried to kill him. Okay, they throw him into the well, and then you know, some caravan comes in there, and he's being sold to slavery. Then he goes to this place, then he's in prison for so many years. Okay, and he doesn't blame his brothers at the end. Can you imagine? Okay, think about it. Okay, 11 guys who had nothing, didn't do anything good to him. Okay, and in spite of all of that, he just forgives them. Okay, that is amazing. Okay, what kind of person he was. So it gives us a lot of information in the situation. And Quran is telling us about this, that you know, that God brought all kinds of examples. And so these are examples that we have to follow in the Quran, that can we be like that? Okay? Or you know, or can we be as careful as David was when he passed the judgment, sort of a snap judgment that he did in the case of 99 and 1 sheep between the two brothers? Okay, so, or can we be as grateful as Solomon was? Can we be as patient as Job was? Okay, and you know, we go through this, and the man was sick all his life. Okay, and God heals him. Okay, and with all of those faith healers and those guys, he says, look, there's a spring here, go and have a wash there, and take this herb and apply it, and you're going to be okay. And he was okay. So there was a medication for that. Okay, and then you have people that are not taking vaccine and sending the sick kids to the school and make a lot of people sick, and you know, it's amazing.
Sir, may I, with your permission, just recite this verse, Surah 2?
Sure, by all means, yes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And when my servants ask you about me,
Yes.
first singular, I am always nearby.
Yeah.
I respond to the call of the caller when he calls. Therefore, they shall respond to me and have faith in me, that they may find guidance. It's such a beautiful verse. So comforting. And it just nails it down. That's it. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll quit for tonight, and then inshallah we hear from you